I'm a 35-year-old female and my story takes place when I was 15, but it feels like yesterday. It was the day that would change my innocent youth forever. I'm from a little village in Ireland with a population of a few hundred, and the nearest town is about 10 miles away. Growing up in rural Ireland was very idealistic. Summers were spent playing football with neighbors or going to the lake swimming till the sun went down. I was lucky that even though the population is small and the houses are far apart, that my best friend's house was only down the road. So during those summer months, Mary and I were inseparable. My friend and I grew up with lots of brothers and sisters in a safe village. We were given a lot of freedom and sometimes we were gone all day and only came back before dark. As it was the middle 90s and we had no phones, but our moms knew we would be okay and look out for each other. One thing that we liked to do during these summer months, besides going to the lake and hanging out at each other's houses, was to go to town and look around the shops. The easiest way to get into town was to hitchhike, as there were no buses. Here in Ireland, we call it thumbing. Hardly anyone hitches now because most households have 2 cars and parents are a lot more protective. But back in the 80s and 90s, it was very common. Our parents were okay with it, but there were certain rules that we had to follow. I'm not entirely sure who came up with the rules, but I assume that our parents did. Rule number 1. Never hitch alone. You must thumb with at least 1 or 2 friends. Number 2. Never take a lift if there are 2 or more men in the car, but 2 or more women is fine. Number 3. Never take a lift from someone in a van. There could be more guys hiding in the back or worse, ropes, blindfolds, etc. Number 4. And this was the most important rule. When a car stops to pick you up, always ask the driver where they're going first. If you tell them where you're going first, they could pretend that they're going to the same place to lure you in. We were innocent but had common sense, so we followed the rules down to a T. At least we tried to. My friend Mary and I used to hitch once a week during the summer. We would go to town with a population of only a few thousand and look around the shops, eat ice cream and hang out. When we got a ride, we had to make small talk with the driver and his 2 shy 15-year-olds. This bit sucked the most. To make it fair, we took turns sitting in the front and did most of the talking. One day, we spent a few hours in town. It was pretty uneventful, so we decided to thumb it back. At around 3 p.m., we went to the usual spot to hitch from, just on the outskirts of town. We were only waiting for about 5 minutes when a white car pulled up. And before we could ask where he was going, he asked us first. My friend told him and he said that he was passing through our village on the way to another one. Rule number 4 broken, but he seemed nice enough and we just wanted to go home. It was my turn to sit in the front. The driver introduced himself as John, a farmer, and was super friendly. He was dressed in a worn t-shirt with holes in it. He had tattered pants and smelled of cow poop. The car was full of bits of straw and was old and battered like the driver. He was about 60, had no wedding ring on. Don't ask me why, but I always noticed these little things. About halfway between town and our home village, he asked if we heard a noise, and we didn't reply. "There it is again. It sounds like a banging noise," he said. I didn't hear anything, so I sat there quietly. "No, I think it might be the exhaust pipe," he said. "I'll have to pull in and have a look." He pulled up on a busy road and went out to take a look. "I didn't hear anything," said Mary. "He seems like a weirdo," I said. Call it intuition, but even though he was super friendly and chatty, I got a bad feeling from him. The next thing he comes back to the driver's side and tells us that the exhaust is hanging down and it was hitting off the road, and he needs us to help him tie it up. It was then that I noticed that he had a string holding up his pants instead of a belt. I thought this was odd. Anyway, he got some string of the boot, same color string as his belt, and we both got out of the car. Although I got a bad vibe from him, I didn't feel scared at this stage. We were on a busy road and it was only about 3:30 p.m., so we both got out of the car. He showed us the exhaust pipe hanging down and used a rag to hold it up because it was hot. My friend Mary took over holding it up, while he secured it with the string. They were both kneeling while I just stood back and watched. It was then that I noticed his fly was open, and I could see his privates, and he was clearly not wearing any underwear. He didn't even have a belt, so I guess I wasn't too surprised. In my head I thought, oh my gosh, what is going on? Crap, but I said nothing. I just stood there in shock. Mary hadn't noticed at this stage and just continued to hold the pipe. When John was standing up, he noticed his fly was open and acted all shocked. Oh girls, I'm sorry and embarrassed. I only have a safety pin holding the fly together and it must have come off. Please forgive me and get back in the car. Mary was stunned and got a close-up on his privates, which left me to do the talking. I told him that it was okay and that it was an accident, so we got back in the car. He fastened the safety pin even though I didn't see him look for it. All was hidden again. Back in the car, the atmosphere was very different. We both felt mortified and he kept apologizing over and over. I looked out the passenger window and just repeated, it's okay. Then he said something that turned my stomach. Oh well, girls, you had taken it very well. If I didn't know any better, I would swear that you liked it. And then he nudged me in the arm with his arm, like you do to a friend. I looked at him through the corner of my eye, my face still facing the window, when I noticed that his fly was undone again, and that he was exposed again. He must have noticed me looking because he said, "Oh, the safety pin keeps opening, just don't look." Fine by me, I thought, but I said okay and continued to look out the window. He kept nudging me and saying, don't be looking, giggling at the same time. He was doing this in a playful way, like it was all a joke. Mary started giggling too, because when she's nervous, she laughs. I knew it wasn't her fault, but I was getting angry at this stage. He wouldn't stop telling me to stop looking. And then he said, your friend is laughing, she must be enjoying the view. And this made her laugh even harder. Now remember, we're both polite 15-year-olds that always respect our elders and are a little shy, so I would never speak up to an adult. The nudging in my arm and my friend laughing was all getting to be too much. He asked if it was the first Willie that I had ever seen, and told me once again to stop looking. I was turned facing the passenger window, so much so that I had my back to him. There was no way that I could be looking. I lost my temper. I shouted at the top of my voice, I'm not looking. Mary, shut up and stop laughing. Silence followed. He said that he was sorry and that he was only joking and there was no need to be so serious. I said nothing and sat there, red with temper. I should have told him to let us out. I should have told him to cover himself up, the dirty old guy. But I was in shock too, and part of me wanted to believe it was all an innocent mistake. We finally arrived at our tiny, safe little village. We got out and he said again that he was sorry about the whole thing. My friend got her voice back and assured him that it was okay. I said that it was all okay and it was nothing to worry about. I said thanks for the lift. What he said back sickened me. He looked me up and down with this creepy smile and said, "Oh girlies, thanks for everything," and he drove off. We were left speechless. We sat down on a nearby bench to process all of this before going home. We made a deal that we wouldn't tell our parents there that they would never let us hitchhike again. My friend finally got her voice back and repeated, "What a weirdo, smelly old guy. He had this plan the whole time," over and over. About 5 minutes after sitting down on the bench, who drives by going the direction that we just came from? You guessed it, little old guy Farmer John, waving and smiling while we sat there stunned. He had beeped to catch our attention, so much for passing through our village. A few months later, and the ordeal went to the back of my mind. Occasionally, we would talk about Farmer John, but we made jokes about it and we told some of our friends about what had happened. One day, I told a friend of mine named Brid. A cousin of hers had told her a very similar story. The cousin lived in another village about 20 miles in the other direction from town. She was only a few years older than us. While hitchhiking home one day, the same thing happened to her and her friend. The exhaust, the safety pin, and the undone fly. It was no accident, and my worst fears were confirmed. Farmer John really was a weirdo. I was on a hitchhiking adventure from BC, Canada to Antigua, Guatemala, which started in September 2019. This post is taken from the notes in my journal, which I wrote as soon as I could after this insane experience. If you've ever hitchhiked before, you know how amazing it is and how many cool people that you can meet. Out of the thousands of rides across 40 countries, I've only had 2 bad or dangerous encounters at thumbing it. This was my second one. I was taking a break from traveling to find some lawn work in California's Nevada City, a beautiful little town with a very interesting crowd, but got stuck a few towns over for not getting a ride all day. I ended up sleeping a night at the Love's gas station, which I had done plenty of times before. I've slept on worse places. At least Love's has a bathroom. In the morning, I was a little more desperate to accept rides because no one was stopping and it had already been a whole day. I just wanted to get out of there. A pickup truck is speeding past me and slams the brakes ahead, and then slowly backs up. Inside is a man and a woman in their late 50s, and he says in a husky voice, "Where you heading, boy?" "Nevada City. Any distance helps." "We'll get in, we're going to Yuba." They seemed normal enough, even without most of their teeth and hair, so I jumped in. It all happened in rapid succession. 1, I toss my bag into the back and jump in. 2, I shut the door. 3, I notice a pile of guns and bullets on the floor. And 4, before I have time to rethink my decision, we speed off. So, as I'm trying to assess whether or not I'm in danger, they start telling me how this guy got out of jail for aggravated assault and how he beat the crap out of that guy so bad that he can't think straight no more. And they both laugh. She's holding his seatbelt over his chest and they both smell awful. And they start asking how much money I have. I think, yep, I'm not safe here. After hitchhiking all this way, I don't look very wealthy. I'm filthy and I need a shower. I look no different than the stereotypical homeless guy. So I try to seem more poor than I am, and more tough than I am too. Man, I'm broke as heck, man. That's why I'm going to the city. I'm hoping to make some cash trimming. The man looks me in the eye. "Well, you'll find it alright, you'll find it good. Don't be afraid to do no dirty work. If people try, and they'll try to screw you, you screw them first, you get what I'm saying? Put your eyes on the road, Jesus Christ." The woman points forward and he swerves back to the right lane. He asks me if I smoke, and knowing that California has legalized it, I put 2 and 2 together. He's offering me some, so I say yeah, I smoke. With a wild look in his eyes, he exclaims, "Great," and we turn off the highway and start down a dirt road. I'm more than worried, and I look behind us. In the back of the truck is my bag, a chainsaw, a pickaxe, and a plastic tarp over something. It didn't help with my anxiety. Finally, we stop in front of a clearing, and the woman doesn't take out a joint but a pipe. It's the first time I've seen one of these pipes, and a lot of things start to make sense. While he lights up and exhales into the car, I've never seen smoke so white. Rolling down the window as fast as possible because I don't want to breathe that stuff in. The woman takes some as well, and they tell me how they were going to collect money that a woman owes them. That dang lady is gonna pay today or one way or another. Yeah, she better have the money. I'm gonna grab her and say, "Where's my money?" Oh, she'll have it all right. She'll have it or else. You say, son, you ever steal something? 'Cause we could make like 20K today. I don't know how exactly to answer this guy, and he repeats, $20,000 today. Here, smoke some of this. And he hands me the pipe. There's nothing like it, ain't that right? I gently reject it and say that it isn't really my thing, which he surprisingly takes well, and smokes some more before putting it away and driving off back towards the highway. Now his driving is terrible, swerving, speeding, hitting brakes abruptly. Then he starts trying to convince me to help him steal some weed plants. You hold my gun and I'll drill the hole, and I'll keep a lookout. Yeah, baby girl, we'll keep a look. Now you gotta be careful if you hear the dogs because them sons of guns are nasty. Nasty, I tell ya. You see this bite? And he reveals what looks like a terrible scar on his arm. I didn't really know how to get out of this situation, so I sounded as confident as possible and said that I was meeting a friend to look for work together and they would be expecting me today. We neared the end of Yuba City where they pulled over to the side. Well, it's your funeral, you don't want to eat. Fine by me, but if we ever want that cash, you just call me. And he hands me his phone number. Heck no, I think. Hey, thanks, I will. Quickly retrieving my bag and smiling nervously. The woman says with a wave, Take care now, God bless. And they speed off. I'm standing on the side of the road thinking, what in the world was that? And I'm happy to be out of that car. So one Sunday afternoon, I was waiting at the bus stop alone after an outing with a friend to the mall. The bus stop that I was at was the final stop for all buses, so there were many buses coming and going and staying. I saw a bus driver get onto a bus and I asked him if he was A14. He said that he wasn't going to be driving, so I said okay and waited patiently for my bus. A few minutes later, I saw him get onto a bus, but he made eye contact with me. I think he was wearing sunglasses at the time. And then he gestured with his hand to come to him. So, me trying to be nice and a kind person, I did just that. He told me to take off my mask because he couldn't understand me when I had it on. He then proceeded to tell me how beautiful I am and how I was such a rare beauty and how he's never seen anyone as beautiful as me before and who gave me these gleaming eyes, etc. Now, I am used to guys who are significantly older than me hitting on me, because I am well aware that I'm pretty, and that I look 18. So I generally like to inform them that I'm 15, and they tend to leave me alone after that. But this guy, he didn't seem to care one bit that I had just turned 15, and continued to flirt even though he was 26. He proceeded to make inappropriate comments and kept looking at my chest. He was only about my height, and I'm only about 5 feet tall. After 10 minutes of conversation, he asked me about my SEX life, and I had enough so I texted my mom to call me. I talked to my mom for the rest of the bus ride, and when I was on the phone with her, I was getting off the bus and he grabbed a hold of my hand. I luckily yanked it away from him, and I got off feeling sick. I went to the police station to report it, and I had to do a confrontation. Basically, they brought him in with zero warning, and I had to tell him, confront him, and he argued like a 7-year-old, and I got him to confess in only 6 minutes. Regardless, the guy was a weirdo.